welcome to this interview with the majority leader in the National Assembly, MP Ichung'wah, who is also the Member of Parliament, Kikuyu constituency, as we look into the 2025 and also into the 2026, as we head to the 2026, on his views of 2025 and what he's looking forward in 2026. Thank you very much for giving us this opportunity to just hear from you and also to know how you're doing and what you're looking forward to 2026. So karibu sana kwenye KTN.
Asante KTN kwa kutembea hapa Gekambura, Kikuyu. Hapa ndio nyumbani. Na karibuni sana.
Asante
and
sana.
Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.
Yes.
And a happy festive season to all of you and all your listeners and those who watch KTN.
Thank you very much. Hapa kuna...
And remember, I used to work in KTN in the Standard Group some years back.
As a reporter?
No. I used to pay reporters. I was in finance.
Okay. I get you. In the accounts.
Yes.
Thank you very much. And first and foremost, of course, 2025, we look into the 2025 year. The country has had a tough time, has lost some very important leaders, and also on your part, seemed like also a tough year. I lost your father. Maybe how would you talk about it?
Well, the year, as you say, has been a year. Tough one, but we thank God for everything, for the resilience that God has given us as a country, as individuals, as you have said. We have had our losses, we have had our wins, and it's all in the balance of life, and I take it that way, that's all in the balance of life. As a personal level, this is a year, unfortunately, I lost my father. Someone I have grown to live with and know for the last 49 years of my life. And even this festive season can tell you how difficult it has been. It's the first time. As a family, we never travel anywhere during Christmas. On Christmas Day, we all meet at my father's residence just across. And this was the first one, since we were all born, including my 71-year-old brother, to be without him. And therefore, that I believe is the same for many other families across Kenya who have had their wins, who have had losses in life. And so is the country. We have had our wins as a country. We have had our losses. You remember this year we lost quite a number of people also, ordinary Kenyans, through road accidents during the commemoration of the 2024 demonstrations and Sabasaba. We unfortunately lost people, which we should never have lost people. And we must never lose people because of politics. And I say because of politics. I must emphasize that it is because of politics and retrogressive, backward politics that leads to death of innocent people who should not lose their lives in one way or the other. We also lost the former Prime Minister during the year. Again, a very sad episode for the country, and not just the country, but our continent and the world at large. Therefore, we have had those difficult times, and that's why I said we thank God for the resilience and the courage to be able to carry on. But we've also had our wins. As difficult as it has been, you know, the Kenya Kwanza administration, when it came to office 2-3 years ago, the economy was almost collapsing. And when I talk about wins, I look into the future and where we are today, and I can see some glimmer of light at the end of the tunnel in terms of the economic turnaround. That is a win for me during the 2025 year, that even with the political turmoil that was there in 2024, at the beginning of the financial year 2024-2025, remember we lost half the year in terms of revenue generation and raising of taxes. We, as a country and as an economy, were resilient. We have been able to settle our debts as they fall due, which is something everybody expected would never happen. Two, we have by and large stabilized the economy, and now it's on a trajectory for an upward trajectory to take off. But more importantly is where we are today, and the journey, as Kenyans are now speaking on the journey to Singapore.
To Singapore.
Singapore being figurative, because it's a move from a third world to a first world country.
Right.
And I'm glad to say here in Kikuyu, where I represent the people of Kikuyu, they can attest, and and I'm sure since you also know people who live in Kikuyu,
right.
You can attest that we are actually on that path to a first world country. Whether it is in terms of the transformation we are doing in our schools, our markets, our trading centers, our roads infrastructure and other infrastructure, our affordable housing projects. You've seen our affordable housing projects in Kikuyu, and that's just the beginning. We are doing another 2 projects at the Agri City in Muguga. And that is in that endeavor to do what the president has called us to action to do, to
right.
move our country within our lifetime from a third world to a first world country.
Right. And talking about first world, or rather third world to first world, the National Assembly and the Parliament at large will be very key in this, because most of the issues are going to be deliberated in the National Assembly. 2025. The National Assembly has also had its lows and its highs, and at some point even the president has addressed the National Assembly and talked about this. But again, how has it been for you as the majority leader in the National Assembly this 2025?
Let me say 2025 in terms of work as a leader of majority hasn't been that difficult. Because with the coming into place of the broad-based government, thanks to the president and our late former prime minister, Raila Odinga, when they purposed to bring the country together and get our teams to work together, that made the congruence of ideas help us to move government agenda and formulation of policy and legislation much easier in the National Assembly. Not to say that there aren't divergent views. Divergent views are always there, within and without government, those who support and those who don't support. And I must also be thankful that there are those who objectively look into issues and raise issues that help to improve what we are doing. As much as also others who just speak for the sake of speaking and for the sake of politicking, unfortunately. But by and large, I would say the wins in the National Assembly in 2025 have been good for the country. And I remember during the State of the Nation address this year, last month, President Ruto did indicate that indeed when the history of Kenya is written, the 13th Assembly or the 13th Parliament will have a chapter in the history of the transformation of Kenya.
Right.
Leave alone the noises out there. But when push comes to shove, when you are rightly on that trajectory to a first world and we get to a first world nation, I do believe, firmly believe, that the 13th Assembly will have a chapter in the history of the remaking of the Kenyan nation into a modern country. But again, that you can take to the bank without a doubt. As you say, there have also been laws. There are issues the president raised on matters that touch on the integrity of members of parliament. And I must be quick to say that it is not all members of parliament. And I think what many members of parliament took offense with was the blanket condemnation of the House, because it boils down to individuals and individual members who have the habits that the president spoke about, again reflective of the society that we live in. Remember, members of parliament are representatives of the people. They come from every corner of this country, and they are elected by the same population that lives in Kenya.
But again, the members of parliament rushed to say that they were being condemned of being corrupt by the president and also the former prime minister, Raila Odinga. And you say it is not all members. So are you saying that the House could have members who are corrupt?
Definitely, there are members who are corrupt. That I can say without flinching an eyelid. But that doesn't warrant the blanket condemnation of the House, and that's what the House took offense with, and that's what every other member raised issues with. Remember, corruption is not a trophy to walk around holding and saying, I am corrupt. In fact, the most corrupt are also the most noisy, speaking against corruption. And I can tell you that from the ones I know in the National Assembly.
So you know
the
some
loudest,
who are corrupt?
Of course I know. I know those who sit in the oversight committees that some I have had to personally intervene, and the Speaker has had to intervene. You can imagine there are people who have gone and collected bribes from people in the name of the Speaker. No other person, in the name of the Speaker. And somebody comes and asks the Speaker, oh, I sent something to you, Mr. Speaker, did you receive? From where? This and that member. And the member is called and he remorseful. We know them, and we know each other.
But we have a committee, the Powers and Privilege Committees. Has it dealt with this issue?
Yes, there are think about 2 issues that are already under the purview of the Powers and Privileges Committee. For instance, that particular member, there are others that we just had to take action and move them from committees, particular committees where people were too much.
Yes.
And let me say from that, we will continue to do that, even in the coming year. If we realize you are using your position in a particular committee in a way that is bringing disrepute to either the committee of the House or the House as a whole, we remove you from the committee and you can serve somewhere else where you don't take your bad manners.
Is it not, would it not be fair maybe for Kenyans to see some of these members being, we talk of naming and shaming them, so that at least the Kenyans can agree that what the president is talking about, it is happening. And again, the House has actually dealt with it.
It is not in my place to name colleagues and people I work with. That is in the place of people like yourselves in the media, in the fourth estate, to do your investigative journalism. I believe you patronize the corridors of Parliament, you attend committee sittings, and that is where to pick those issues. Mind you, even also those of us who pick those issues, we just pick them from the same corridors you. but and of course, I'm from you people.
Now, the National Assembly, the Senate, critics say that sometimes they are like a rubber stamp of issues that are being brought by the president or the government to the House. Some issues needs to be scrutinized, and then the House needs to do its oversight role. But again, looks like it's an extension of the executive. That is what even the opposition has been claiming. And from where you sit as a majority leader, the minority leader should be maybe the one who is also trying to push on the oversight role. Of course, even the government side should be acting on that part of oversight. But sometimes it's not seen.
True. Many people forget that we're in a purely presidential system. And therefore, the House as a whole, without regard to the majority or minority, ought to oversight the executive. But oversight does not mean you undermine the agenda of the executive. Oversight means that you have checks and balances. And that happens, for instance, when the House oversights the executive in terms of the work done in committees, and even in the scrutiny of bills that come from the executive. That's why they are processed through Parliament, and we go back even to the public through public participation, because those are the imperatives that were created by our 2010 Constitution, that we must involve the public in legislation. We must also check what the executive is bringing to us before we pass it into law. And that happens. Any critic who criticizes Parliament, that Parliament is a rubber stamp, I have always dared them. Show me one aspect of any piece of legislation that came to Parliament, wasn't scrutinized through all the processes, including amending proposals that come from the executive, some sending back to the executive. And I'll give you the example of the Lands Amendment Bill of 2024. I didn't even take it to the committee. When it came to my desk, there are certain issues. even as a Kenyan I didn't agree with, and we sent it back to the ministry and told them, go rework this bill, or allow Parliament to rework it the way we think would work best. And the ministry then worked with the Committee on Lands and reworked on a bill that was agreeable. That is what is oversight, because we are all elected. Those in the executive who are elected, the president and the deputy president, are elected to advance the good of the country. As a member of parliament, for instance, in the president's party, I campaigned with the president. The manifesto he sold to the people of Kenya, I sold it to them. You know, I look at some of my colleagues, and I was giving the case example of the infrastructure fund, the National Infrastructure Fund, and the Sovereign Wealth Fund. I look at some of our colleagues criticizing now, yet yesterday they were all over the country selling the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, that on page 10 of the manifesto, and go read the Kenya Kwanza manifesto, on page 10. We stated in black and white that we shall establish a national infrastructure fund. And I'm certain I could quickly get it. A national infrastructure fund. And we even stated how we will fund. In fact, we call it the infrastructure bank. Page 10 of our manifesto. Here. This is a Kenya Kwanza manifesto.
Right.
We say the infrastructure fund, and an infrastructure fund will be established with initial capitalization from privatization proceeds, with a view to progressively reducing the financing of commercially viable infrastructure projects from the budget. That is exactly what we are doing. When 2 or a year ago we said that we shall implement this manifesto, paragraph by paragraph, from comma to full stop, from the first letter to the last full stop, people thought we were joking. And therefore, when we sit in the National Assembly, and for instance, when I sit in the National Assembly as a member for Kikuyu and the leader of majority, I will ask myself, what is it that we promised the people of Kenya?
Right.
How did we promise we would move this country forward? Are we doing that, or are we not doing that? That is part of oversight.
Right.
Because I must oversight and check, is the executive implementing that infrastructure fund in the manner that we sold to the people of Kenya in our manifesto? And does it align with the Constitution and with our current statutes? Why it does not align? Part of the oversight I do and Parliament does is to make sure that it aligns not just to your manifesto, because it's a political party manifesto. That is why even the minority and other parties, even those who are elected as independents, have an input and sit in committees. But also to check, does it align with our statutes, current statutes, and our Constitution? And once we see that, and we see it is serving in the best interest of the country, it is helping us to lift off some things off the budget. Because, for instance, when you do the Thika superhighway from Museum Hill to Thika, and you do it off budget, and it helps to grow our economy, and especially for those of us who come from this region that is being connected with that road, and many other Kenyans from northern Kenya who use that road on a daily basis, moving commerce around the country. Therefore, criticism is okay. And that's why I am very confident, my friend, that as was said of this parliament, when history is written on the transformation and renewal of the Kenyan state, the 13th parliament will have a whole good chapter, very good chapter.
Before we move away from the parliament issue, you've talked about public participation, and also critics have raised issue with the way the public participation is handled, especially on some of the issues, some of the bills that you're talking about. They feel like when they go to Kenyans and some of the bills, they feel this bill maybe should not be taken to the House first, should be dealt with. But those issues are not considered. Kenyans feel like sometimes their issues are not considered that they have raised in the public participation forums.
We have had a challenge to just put it as it is. One, we didn't have a public participation law that defines how do you carry out public participation. It has been through practice that we have established a mechanism of doing public participation that is not guided per se by an act of parliament. We are in the process, and as soon as we resume in February, we will be going to the second reading of the public participation bill that will now guide us on, and basically not necessarily guide, but help to inform Kenyans. How is public participation to be done? Because public participation doesn't mean that if you appear before a committee of parliament and say, I don't like this particular aspect of the law, because you have said it, it goes that way, then that would be public autocracy. And in a democracy, you weigh is a measure of balances. There is what is proposed in a certain bill, there is what the public says, and there is the interest of the country, that you must balance all those things together. And more so, let me give you the case example of taxation, because it's the most sensitive thing.
Yes.
Even in the Bible, the Holy Book, the time of Jesus Christ and Caesar, Jesus had to tell Christians, give unto Caesar what belongs to Caesar. Because even Jesus Christ knew paying taxes is not a walk in the park. People don't like to pay taxes. I don't like to pay taxes also, let's be honest. If I find ways of not paying, I will go for the ways of not to pay. And that's why in accounting parlance, there was tax avoidance and tax evasion. And we would comfortably say that tax avoidance is legal and is allowed. Tax evasion is what is illegal and is not allowed. And therefore, if you are crafting legislation around taxation, if you ask the large majority of people, should we tax your good shoes and my good shoes? We say, why should you tax a shoe, and a shoe is just something I'm wearing? But this shoe probably could be done in Batalimuru and provide employment for the youth in Kikuyu and in Limuru and the rest of the country. But just the human nature, we will not be celebrating that which we think will get a shilling, one more shilling out of our pockets.
Right.
But is it in the best interest of the country to impose taxation on the importation of your good shoes and my good shoes, so that we are able to grow our leather industry and help our farmers who are pastoralists, and also create employment for our children who are in school? Would that be in the best interest? Or is it in the interest of the nation to allow me and you to continue importing shoes, make us happy, and we feel good because we are wearing an imported shoe? That is a balance, my friend, that you must strike. Therefore, public participation, just to summarize what I was trying to say, doesn't necessarily mean that what will be said always by the majority is right.
It's right.
I have seen instances where people have crafted an app, a software app, to send emails, spam mails, just saying reject a bill, without stating what in the bill you are rejecting. And you remember there's even a lady who was arrested and by DCI for I think they said that time was trying to hack into the parliamentary website. But actually what they had done was to create an app where you just log in on a particular bill. The moment you click on that app, it sends an email that clogs the system and says reject. Look at what happened during the 2024 finance bill in June of 2024. What did Kenyans tell us? We went through a rigorous public participation through the Finance and National Planning Committee led by my colleague, Chair Kimani Kuria, the member for Molo. They went around the country getting the views of the public, and they listened to Kenyans saying, we don't tax on bread. We don't tax on motor vehicle circulation. And they agreed with Kenyans that indeed tax on bread, remove. Tax on motor vehicle circulation, the motor vehicle circulation tax, that in fact you are taxing, there was a proposal to tax a motor vehicle as an income, and a motor vehicle is not an income, is an asset. And the committee outrightly, even ahead of the public participation in the briefs they had, they said this is wrong. It even sits in the wrong act. It sits in the Income Tax Act. Therefore, this cannot pass. But remember, it was in the bill. There is no other way of removing something from a bill the moment it is published, other than taking through public participation, coming to debate in the House. You hear the views of members of Parliament as the people's representatives. Then you go into the committee of the whole House, where you amend. There is, even when there is a comma that or a full stop that is misplaced in a bill, the only way to change that is to amend.
To amend that.
What did Kenyans tell us on the 24th of June, 2024?
To reject it.
Do not amend. Reject. If you reject, you go back to the bill as it was published. But Kenyans never understood that process. And Parliament now has belabored. We have even gone back to the open parliamentary days to try and inform Kenyans on processing in Parliament so that they understand. Because after the public participation, the bill, the final bill that was to passed on the 24th of June, had removed all the things Kenyans had said they do not want. All of them, by the way.
So you
left that which was in the best interest of the country.
So you're saying that's the reason
why I have said
Parliament had rushed maybe to pass the bill, so that those that you had already amended, the bill would pass with the amendments, rather than going back
Parliament had not rushed. Parliament had followed through processes to the letter, as they ought to be. That a bill is published, it goes for first reading, where nothing is done, and Kenyans ought to understand that. It comes for second reading. Between first and second reading, there is a phase for public participation.
Yes.
During second reading, the committee that will have conducted the public participation will table a report that details what the public said and what the committee has proposed. For instance, with the finance bill, that is why when they went to the public, they were told motor vehicle circulation tax, tax on bread, remove. If you read the report, the committee report, it had those recommendations. But those recommendations at the point of second reading are merely recommendations. You can only change the bill before it becomes an act of Parliament through committee of the whole House in the third reading of that bill.
Right.
That is what Kenyans never understood. And that is why I have been bashed left, right, and center and accused of arrogance when I tell Kenyans the truth, that the finance bill of 2024, as was passed in June, on the 4th and 5th of December 2024, was passed again in 4 different bills. Because we went back again, I think in September or October. We asked Kenyans, now come and tell us, what is it that you want, now that you rejected what was given to you? The same things that were in the finance bill, KEPSA, Kenyazation of manufacturers, business people, individuals came and told us the same things that were in the bill. So we said, okay, the problem was the name finance bill. So take out the tax matters, put them in a tax amendment bill of 2024. Take out the tax procedures matters, put them in a tax procedures amendment bill of 2024. Take the business laws matters, put them in a business laws 1 of 2024 and others business laws 2 of 2024. We published 4 different bills. Only one bill is stuck in the Senate, the business laws 2 amendment bill. So all the other 3 bills passed. And that's why I have contended, and it remains the truth, that the finance bill of 2024 in its entirety, 97% was passed by the same House with the support of the same Kenyans that had rejected it.
So you're saying what they had rejected, what Kenyans had rejected, was once again passed in different ways, different bills, that is.
It is not what Kenyans had rejected. What Kenyans had rejected had been removed from the original bill. What was passed on June 24th, June 2024 was the amended version of the bill. That is what was passed.
In different bills.
And what Kenyans had said they do not want had been removed. But Kenyans did not have the patience then. Why? Because we had been incited. A lot of negativity had been sold. And you know, with all the noise that was there, nobody was listening to the other. And that is why we graciously agreed with the president when he said, okay, let's hold this thing for a moment. On June 26th of 2024, we agreed. The House has done what is right for the country.
Right.
But the country does not agree with us. Because we are not sober. And we are not sober. Let us give time for people to sober up. And when we sobered up, we asked Kenyans. And it was done in broad daylight. The National Treasury advertised and said, give us your views. So the views Kenyans brought were in tandem with the bill as had been passed.
Right.
But we said, you can't bring back the same bill with the same name before the lapse of 6 months. So what do? There are tax matters, put them in a tax bill. There are those procedural matters, put them in a tax procedures bill. Let me give you an example. Many Kenyans wanted a tax waiver on penalties and interest that was being surcharged by KRA. Many business people. But they lost it in June when the bill was rejected. Why? Because it was in the bill. There was a tax waiver. But nobody ever spoke about tax waivers that were in the finance bill.
Right.
Why? Because even those of us in the media and those of us who are very active on social media were more ingrained to believe what was being sold, the negativity and the lies and the propaganda and the misinformation and disinformation, deliberate disinformation that was being propagated on TikTok, on Instagram, on Facebook. Let me give you a good example. I asked a young man here, my neighbor here from Kino. He came to look for help from me. And the message he sent me on my phone on WhatsApp, the message ahead of that, before the message now seeking for help on the issue he wanted help on, he had told me on 4th of June 2024, wewe mzee, tumia akili. Reject. That was in regard to the finance bill. Now, 2 years later, he's come to me, sent me a message looking for help. Graciously, I said, the young person, I may listen to him. So I had a sitting with him and asked him, what was your problem, by the way, the finance bill? He told me, oh, mine was that thing of VAT. So what was wrong with VAT, my friend? He said, that thing of increasing VAT to 18%. I took my phone and told him, please, just Google or use your phone, Google. And I also Google Finance Bill 2024. Just show me where that particular provision was in the bill. He was shocked. He couldn't find it. But he told me, no, there's a version I saw on TikTok that was saying that. As in a version of a bill or someone who had recorded something on TikTok. No, he said it's someone who had done an analysis of what was in the bill. So I said, my friend, you're an engineer. Do you wait for somebody else on TikTok to read for you and interpret for you, or do you read for yourself?
For yourself. Thank you very much.
That is a tragedy for our nation.
Thank you very much.
The era of disinformation and misinformation has taken root, and is a new challenge, especially with also AI now that we have to deal with. We are looking into means and ways, and the Committee on ICT in the National Assembly is working on means and ways on how to help Parliament and the country to deal with these emerging challenges of disinformation, misinformation, artificial intelligence that mimics you saying something that you have not said, and people believe it is the truth.
Thank you very much. Let's talk a bit of politics. And how close are you with the President William Ruto?
I work with President William Ruto as my president. He's my party leader, and he's also my friend. Yeah.
So in the run-up to the by-election...
You're not asking about those things. They insult me on social media.
No. No, not really. I'm actually asking because I want to ask in matters to do with the Mount Kenya politics, because you are key in the Mount Kenya politics in terms of how President William Ruto is working towards ensuring that Mount Kenya development as well as politics. And in the by-elections, the by-election that happened in Mbeere North, there was a very big campaign that was being carried out by the government to ensure that they have won that seat, as well as the opposition was trying to push, and when I talk about the opposition, I mean the former Deputy President Rigathi Gachagua. This by-election, by the end of the day, the government won because UDA won. Which way do you think Mount Kenya is headed in the 2027 run-up to the election?
I am very confident that the Mount Kenya region always makes the right decision. And the people of Mount Kenya are an intelligent lot of people. They weigh matters, they look at issues objectively, and they make their political decisions informed by their interests, not the interests of any individual. That is why you found the people of Mount Kenya have never followed a leader for the sake of following a leader. And it's only recently where we've seen leaders purport to claim that they are the leaders of the region. You do not abrogate yourself that leadership role, and I cannot even abrogate myself that leadership role. Leadership in this region emerges, and it is not for anybody to claim that they lead you. It is the people who identify a leader that they follow. Look at way back from 1992, the time of the late Kenneth Matiba. The people of this region followed Kenneth Matiba to the man. By 1997, it was a different scenario altogether. They had moved on. A small group had remained with Matiba, and another larger group had moved on to support Mwai Kibaki. Look at the transition from Mwai Kibaki to Uhuru Kenyatta, and post Uhuru Kenyatta now, that leadership will still emerge, and you can see it emerging. And it is not emerging with those who claim. It emerges by what you saw in Bere. The people listen, the people watch, and they ask what is in our best interest. Why do I wake up in the morning on election day and go to vote? Because I want to improve my lot, I want to improve my life, and I want a leader or an administration that will be impactful in my life and in the country. And that's how the people of Mount Kenya make their decisions. Therefore, when you find President William Ruto again being a focused leader, stick to issue-based politics and ignore the politics of hatred that is being propagated by those people that you mentioned, the negativity that is being propagated by the other younger versions of those that you mentioned, because there are also younger versions of those ones who propagate negativity. And as I said, some campaigned with us. They were there when we were setting up the infrastructure fund. I have had others move around saying, oh, school capitation. And I'm glad the president did point it out yesterday, that school capitation is not changing. But you see some running helter-skelter all over saying, oh, school capitation is being reduced. School fees is being increased to what? When I check with the ministry, there is no such thing. But you want to propagate negativity. And therefore, the people in this region and the president understand each other. The president understands that this is a community that looks at the best interests of the country, needs and wants a united country, not to be fixed in a corner as the people of one region, because the people from this region are all over the country as business people, entrepreneurs who have invested around the country.
Right.
And therefore, they don't want to be boxed into a corner as some want to box us into a corner. The people also understand that there are leaders who want to box them into a corner. Not to serve the interests of the people or the interests of the country, but to serve the leaders' selfish political interests. And therefore, they create that dichotomy, and then they vote based on that. That is just what happened in Mbeere. The people of Mbeere North listened to our team and the others. They listened to the insults, the negativity, the lack of an agenda from the other team, and they identified with our team that had an agenda for them, spoke to issues, We were not insolent to anybody. We stuck to our issues. And that is how to move the country forward.
But now, as a Mount Kenya region leader, I have seen the Nyanza region leaders also talk about being in the government in the 2027 elections. And there are even reports that the president has held meetings with some of the leaders in the ODM party. And we have heard them talk about being in the negotiation table and getting positions and being assured of some positions. Do you think that Mount Kenya region will still have some of these positions they hold, like the deputy president's position that is being held by the deputy by Professor Kithure Kindiki in 2027? Will they get this position again in 2027? Of course, 2027 is way ahead, but 2026 politics of 2027 will be very, very hot.
Well, let me say this.
And first, is there a meeting that the president has held with ODM leaders?
The president holds meetings with all leaders. He has held meetings with us as leaders of the Mount Kenya region. He has held meetings with leaders from Ukambani. In fact, I attended the meeting with leaders from Ukambani because I happened to be in Kitui that time when he met the leadership from Ukambani and the larger former eastern province. He has held meetings with leaders from the coast. He believes in consultative leadership, and therefore his style of leadership is one that involves leaders from across the board.
But this was with the ODM officials?
Remember,
some of the ODM officials?
Well, I have not attended a meeting. I know he went to Mombasa for the 20th anniversary of ODM, sometime, I think late November. He attended their celebrations and had a dinner with them. But what I have seen being propagated out there is really nothing in the sense of what people want to propagate. We are in a political setup where we are working with ODM. ODM are coming from outside government and have come into government to work with government. They are a distinct political party. UDA is a distinct political party, and our partners in Kenya Kwanza, including Amani National Congress that merged with UDA. And I have listened carefully to what the president is saying, and that is what he has told us also. ODM, go and organize your party. UDA, organize your party, or rather our party. That is why we are having our grassroots elections on the 10th of January, 2 weeks from now, to organize our party. Our party, as the people of this region, is UDA, because that is the party we are elected on. And we remain in UDA. That is why you saw even in Bere, the people are in UDA. Leave alone the shenanigans you hear out there. And therefore, how do we get a stake in government post-2027? It is how well we organize ourselves, how well we mobilize our people to vote for the government that will be there. And that is why, beginning the week after the first, next week, we start organizing ourselves so that we lay our stake within UDA in the next government of 2027. Because I strongly believe it will be a William Ruto administration. And therefore, we must lay our stake. Today, we have the largest representation as a region in this government. Therefore, there is no government that we have ever had a larger representation than this one. Not the Jomo Kenyatta government, not the Moi government, not even the Mwai Kibaki government, not the Uhuru government. No other government has given us the level of cabinet secretaries that we have. ODM has, I think, 4 cabinet secretaries. As the people of Mount Kenya, we have 7 cabinet secretaries, plus a deputy president. We have 16 principal secretaries. We can see the value of being in government as a people and as a community. We can never let it go. We must be in the next government. So how do we lay our stake? Is mobilize and get to keep our stake in government, as ODM and others also mobilize to lay our stake in government. And in politics, it's competition.
Suppose
The best man wins.
So suppose the best man, as you said, wins. As we wrap up, suppose ODM push and manage to get maybe even the running mate's position. Will the region still feel the same way they're feeling right now?
Let me say the running mate's position is a matter that first is very personal to the candidate. Many people would want to be running mates, just like many people would want to be president, even those who have done nothing for 40 years of their political careers claimed they want to be presidents. And they pride themselves that it's not 50, it's 40 years that they have done nothing. But they want a short stint to continue doing nothing. And the question of a running mate is very personal to the presidential candidate. And I'll tell you that from experience of 2022. As a political class in UDA back then in 2022, the larger majority wanted Professor Kithure Kindiki to be the running mate to William Ruto. But for good reasons that President William Ruto, then as Deputy President, explained to all of us. He opted to go with the former disgraced Deputy President. And history has vindicated us, because the same fears that people had then came to be. Therefore, the question of the running mate for the president first will be determined by the president himself, two, by the stake that every region takes in terms of how well you are mobilizing and what you are bringing to the table. Because if I was running for president, for instance, I wouldn't pick you against someone else if you not bring me enough votes, or if you likely to be cantankerous and chase away others from the equation. Therefore, it is a balance that I would not want to speak to, because I am not running for president. It's President William Ruto who will be running for president, but by and large...
So the region will still support him, even if he does
we will,
especially now talk like the member of parliament Kikuyu.
And let me re-emphasize, we supported William Ruto in 2022. Not because he had a running mate from Mount Kenya region. Not because he was bound to give us the number of cabinet secretaries that we had asked for. When I hear some people claim that they negotiated with William Ruto, I'm taken aback, because the truth is, Professor Kithure Kindiki, Honorable Faith Gitau, CS Honorable Alice Wahome, Government Spokesman Isaac Mwaura, KERA Chairman Anthony Mwaura, Athi Water Chairperson Mary Mungai, Member for Kirinyaga and Chair Transport George Kariuki, and yours sincerely, Kimani Ichung'wah. 8 of us. We are the ones who, on the 18th of May 2022, at 7 p.m. to 9:45 p.m., who sat with William Ruto and put our claim for positions, should he win. And we asked him for 4 cabinet secretaries, 6 principal secretaries. He ended up giving us 9 cabinet secretaries, including the Attorney General, if you remember, in 2022. Therefore, those you hear out there claiming, oh, I negotiated for the community, the moment Rigathi Gachagua got his position as deputy president nominee, he ran out to look for money, because he claimed Uhuru Kenyatta was holding all his money. And he was all over collecting money from people purporting to be for the campaign. But still ended up getting to collect money from us and President William Ruto to fuel the campaign. He never contributed even a shilling. That I can tell you without flinching an eyelid. He never, and you can ask President William Ruto if there is any sitting he ever had with Rigathi Gachagua regarding the stake of the Mount Kenya region in his government. I have given you a date, a time. Go ask William Ruto.
Yes.
Go to Professor Kithure Kindiki. He still today has the paper. 1 page. We never needed to write anything with William Ruto. We went with a typed paper. We told him, this is what we want. These are the positions we want. Without names, except the name of Professor Kithure Kindiki as a Ministry for Interior. That is the only position we put a name against. The others, we told him, we just want you to pick people from our region,
Right.
especially for agriculture. I remember water that went to Alice Wahome, finance, and interior.
Right.
And principal secretaries we had shared out. But let me summarize it this way. When we sat, President William Ruto took his pen and signed against that document and put the date 18/5/2022. And he told us, keep this paper. God willing, should we win, you guys will know I'm a gentleman and I keep my word. He did that. I do not need today
Yes.
to go back to William Ruto
To ask.
to get him to sign anything.
Right.
I do not need to go back to William Ruto to tell him, you must give this one a job, you must give. For us, it was about the interest of the community and getting our economy back on track. We had issues in that paper that we had raised. Issues that we see him addressing today, and we're addressing them together with him, and that is where we support him. Therefore, the support to William Ruto is not premised on positions for individuals. It is premised on the interests of the people, greater people of the Mount Kenya region.
Right.
That we get a working economy, our coffee, what he has done, he continues doing so that we continue getting money. Our milk, I saw yesterday the movement in the milk industry, how there was a monopoly that is now being taken over by good dairies like Meru Dairy and Kenyu KCC. Those are the things that we wanted, the ordinary man's issues, not positions for leaders.
Right. As we wrap up, your final comments, because I know time is not on our side. Your final comments as we head into 2026. What would you tell Kenyans in terms of expectations, and also your message to Kenyans on expectations?
First, let me wish Kenyans a happy festive season, and of course a happy and prosperous new year, full of blessings from the mighty God. And to ask Kenyans that they continue with the resilience that we have seen, and they continue to believe in this administration, an administration that has their best interests at heart, that the transformative journey that we began 2 years ago, 2.5, 3 years ago, is on course. That, unlike what has been said by a number of pundits, the road to Singapore, as it has now been christened, or the move from being a third world to a first world country, is not a narrative. It is not a political narrative. It is a plan of action. That is why the manifesto I've quoted, we said 3 years ago that this manifesto wasn't a newspaper to read and dispose, ile ya kufunga nyama as I had been told, that it was a call to action and a plan for action. Remember, our manifesto was christened the plan. We are on course on that plan. And trust us, we are working hard day and night to transform this country, to be a better nation, the kind of country that we all envisage, that we want to raise our children in. We are parents, we have young children we are raising, and we want the best for them. That is why we work very hard day and night. And when I see President William Ruto, who I told you I work with, and is my friend, I see how he works.
Right.
And he has become a source of inspiration to many people around the country and around the world. And therefore, I am very confident under his leadership we will be able to move this country forward. Kenyans trust that we will do what is right and what is good for the country and in the best interest of the country. Many people may not see it. 3 years ago, without taking you back, we were told not a single house will be built using this housing levy. Kenyans now can tell you whether their house is being built, I don't need to say it, whether their market's being built, whether villages like Ikambura here with a modern market is transforming, whether the Ruto with an ESP market is transforming, whether it is Denderu, whether it is any other town out there or shopping center, whether it is Homa Bay, where I saw someone yesterday recording a video on the affordable housing in Homa Bay, whether you go to Bungoma, you go to Kakamega, every corner of this country, there is visible transformation that is happening. That transformation is what we promise the people of Kenya and is what we pray to God that in the year 2026, moving on to 2027, we will be able to actualize and definitely beyond 2027, God willing.
Right. Time is not on our side. We would have asked so many questions, but now time is not on our side. And we thank you very much for giving us this time to just hear from you and, of course, about 2026. Thank you very much. That was the majority leader in the National Assembly and also Member of Parliament, Kikuyu constituency. And I want to thank you very much also for tuning in. My name is Daniel Karaoke. Have a good